So this is a great 6-week series. Thank you, Open Center. Let me briefly walk through the 6 weeks and just give a shout out to each speaker and their topic. I'm so honored to be among these folks. So kicking off on February 22nd, our series opener is Brian Murescu. Brian wrote a New York Times best-selling book. It was released in late September. Following up on the famous book of the 1970s by Carl Ruck, Albert Hoffman, who discovered LSD, and Gordon Wasson, who went to Mexico and brought back the psilocybin mushroom to the Western culture. He followed up on their research exploring the potential evidence of entheogens, which means cultivating the divine within, or psychedelics in prehistory, throughout history, antiquity, and centered around Eleusis, this ancient site in ancient Greece where Plato and others were believed to have drank in something called kykeon, which was a Greek liquid that we believe to be an ergot alkaloid psychedelic. And Brian's book opens that up and explores the possibilities of other places and venues that may have occurred and that linger even into the first few centuries. After antiquity and ancient Greece. So a fascinating book. It's a fun book. It's kind of reads like an adventure, and it's got a lot of attention. So and it really, there's so much work about Eastern religions and the mystic core, but it's nice, as Ralph is an expert in this, to highlight some of the foundations of Western civilization also in terms of the mystical core. So that's a great opening, and Brian's a great speaker, and it's a great book, and we look forward to that. The second week, I'm going to review, Ralph was mentioning the scientific findings on psilocybin and end-of-life care. What many people may not know is this research began in the 1960s and 70s and 50s, really, with LSD and DPT and other compounds. And the two indications to come out of that era was for alcoholism and for terminal disease, terminal illness stress, the emotional distress. By the way, the alcoholism lineage, many people may not know, Bill Wilson, who founded AA, had taken LSD many times and attributed those peak experiences to his understanding that the spiritual ablation of the need to drink was a possible path forward. On the other side was these findings back then by Stan Groff and Bill Richards and Walter Pahnke that a single dose of a psychedelic could produce this mystical experience. And I'll quickly define that as an affability, hard to describe, the noetic quality, a term by William James, that you're encountering ultimate reality. It's not just a drug effect, it's like ultimate reality you're encountering. Sacredness, transcendence, the sense of transcending the body, consensus reality. If you're dying of cancer or of anything, the notion that my body's beginning to fail and will soon not be working, but that I'm something different. I'm something more enduring. Spirit is something more, my soul, whatever this is something more enduring than just my body. Or that the body just, we do end, but there's a profound gratitude for having lived this one life. So we'll review those findings by Johns Hopkins, UCLA, NYU, and we're going forward. And hopefully within 5 or 7 years, psilocybin is rescheduled by the FDA, somewhere in the next 10 years for sure, I hope, to be used in hospice and palliative care to help us die better. The Open Center has been a champion of with their Art of Dying Institute. By the way, great George Harrison song, The Art of Dying.
You got it.
And
that's where it came from.
I know that. Came from, Ralph? Oh, that's cool. I never knew that.
Yeah, I got it from the George Harrison album, All Things Must Pass.
Must pass.
Yeah.
And so, hopefully these will be medicines soon enough to help us die better, because we don't die well. In the third week, we have a big night. There's so many great people speaking. The Johns Hopkins team, part of the team, will be here. One is Bill Richards, who really is the only person now on the planet who was involved in the first wave of research back in the 1960s, who's still doing research, and I consider a mentor of mine, and an incredible resource for wisdom. He he's a psychologist, and he's has a degree in religion, I think, an MDiv, and he'll speak about his life, the research, end of life, spirituality, incredible. And Dr. Albert Garcia Roma, who's a researcher there, incredible researcher, and they'll review the history of Johns Hopkins, all the studies they're doing. Cancer, eating disorders, smoking cessation, meditators, healthy people. They'll review their data and their implications for the future. So that's really, and they're the dream team. The Johns Hopkins team is the dream team of psychedelic research in the world. We then follow up with an important night with Dr. Rick Doblin and Dr. Michael Mithofer and his wife Annie Mithofer. Those three people are responsible for all the work you read about with MDMA, which is a compound called sometimes an empathogen. It evokes this incredible heart change, but they're showing that it has an incredible effect on PTSD, treating post-traumatic stress disorder. And that has made a lot of headlines, and people have read that. And Rick Doblin heads MAPS, the organization, and the Mithofers have been just champions of this research and just profound clinicians and lovely human beings. So they'll review the groundbreaking research and where that's going in terms of when that'll be rescheduled, when it'll be legally available for people with PTSD.
And the data on that is just so impressive.
Incredible. No, they're just
Hard to believe.
Incredible.
Really, if you see it, it's hard to believe.
No, one session. The same with the psilocybin. It's the one session, and that's why, there's a debate. Not a debate, but is it the biological component? Is it the phenomenology of the experience? It's a one session. It's one experience that's sustainable for sometimes for decades. It's the memory of that insight, and that tells me at least that we're back to wired for meaning, and it connects us with a perspective on what we're doing here. It puts our lives in a much larger panoramic field, our suffering in a very larger kind of broader landscape, and it redefines the nature of self or death or suffering. So then we move into out of the clinical. So I love the way Ralph organized this. We did this. One is it begins with classical antiquity. We have a few weeks of the clinical implications, and we come back to the broader lens. Mark Plotkin, a world-renowned ethnobotanist, who's one of the last students of Richard Schultes, who is the father of ethnobotany, who spent his life exploring the healing. Medicinal nature of plants and indigenous cultures from Mexico to Argentina to the Amazon. He currently works with many organizations looking into the application of these incredible plants and medicines. And we're really fortunate to have Mark. He's a great speaker, and his research is really just foundational. And I'll speak about Schultes too, who really is an incredible figure in this entire movement. And then we close up with another big hitter, Paul Stamets, who's kind of the big world-renowned mycologist now, who explores all types of mushrooms, from medicinal to healing to nutritional to, of course, the implications of psilocybin medicines. The movie Fantastic Fungi, if people haven't seen it yet, profiles his wonderful life and work. He's the author of 7 books and received numerous awards. And he'll talk about his work with mushrooms and psilocybin and the potential healing applications, not only for illness, but what we've been talking about today a little bit for consciousness. How can they be of tools when done seriously? I want to keep returning today and throughout the course. We're talking about the serious, sober use of these medicines. Now therapeutically, these are still illegal medicines, but they merit a real sober and serious look, not some of the other ways that can be portrayed sometimes in the media. So that's a quick look at this incredible 6 weeks. And I'll stop there for a moment.